It's been a while. How are you?
It's not bad.
Yeah. If the American model is anything to go by, elections could be decided on televised debates. How did you feel your performance went last night?
It's not about my performance, it's part of the normal process of any election. And I enjoyed the occasion in that it allows to have discourse and dialogue about the various programmes that the different parties are putting forward in the election. I was very happy to participate in that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what the viewers would think because you were speaking to them directly at home.
Well, let me tell you, it turned into a bit of a catfight, and at one stage, Jerry Adams said he didn't want to be part of this Punch and Judy show. You were all shouting at each other, you wouldn't let each other talk, you kept interrupting. It turned quite messy.
Jerry Adams would say that, wouldn't he? It's not the first time saying that, and obviously he was on the receiving end of some barrage of criticism himself for his party's and his own stance on trying to abolish the Special Criminal Court and the Offences Against the State Act. As I say, how you moderate these things and how they actually turn out is always difficult to determine. You got four party leaders there talking about their individual programmes. For me, working with the Labour Party, it's a very clear position. We would like the people to re-elect the government to finish the job we started. We've got a clear plan and to create more jobs and make work pay and invest that in public services. If it's an alternative, and there is an alternative, of Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin, well then chaos is the outcome of that.
Yeah, although it seems if the Irish Times give the nod to Micheál Martin, he came across strongest.
Everybody participated in this discourse. It's part of the normal election process, part of our democratic process, and I'm very happy to participate in it.
Yeah.
I was accused of, in the past, of not turning up for these things. Very happy to tell our story, and we'll continue to do so.
Yeah, are you asking people then to vote for a coalition?
Yes, I am.
Why? Why shouldn't people be allowed to just follow the parties?
I'll tell you why. Because we have a track record here of having taken over the state at its worst economic situation since the foundation of the state, and a proven record of restoring our public finances to good health, and now working on to build that recovery for everybody. Fine Gael and Labour, two different parties, two different philosophies, came together with a specific requirement and mandate to deal with this.
Well, you were given the blueprint, though, by Fianna Fáil, weren't you? I mean, somebody said during the week that Brian Linehan, God rest him, and the Fianna Fáil party did the heavy lifting.
We were given a blueprint by Fianna Fáil. I'll tell you about it in a second. The issue.
No, you were. I mean, they put together.
I'll deal with that for you.
The recovery plan.
I'll deal with that for you. The requirement here is for a stable government in a very uncertain international situation. This is not a time to mess around with the Irish economy. It's quite fragile, and if there's an alternative on offer, and it'll bring chaos. Now, the blueprint that we were left. Yes, we were left a blueprint by the Fianna Fáil government. Remember, that blueprint contained the legacy of having lost 300,000 jobs, of 100,000 having lost out in the construction sector, of every mortgage holder in the country being in trouble, of banks having gone over
the edge. That was an economic crisis of an international nature.
Let me finish. And 64 billion requirement for the Irish people to borrow, and the troika here completely dependent upon international finance. But that legacy and that blueprint, as you call it, contained three specific facts. One, you were being asked to pay $3 billion a year in interest rate for Anglo-Irish Bank. Two, that legacy and that blueprint wanted to take a further 630 million in income tax increases off you, the electorate. And thirdly, they'd even gone so far as to cut the minimum wage on those who are most vulnerable and who earn the least. And this government reversed that last cut and negotiated a way through the Troika, exited that Troika, first in Europe to do so, and are now in a much stronger financial position and recognised internationally as such.
Yeah, but you used the word chaos. I mean, there are many things in the Irish economy that are chaotic, including the health service. I mean, why would anybody want to believe a politician or a Taoiseach whose main 48-sheet posters at the start of the last general election were, "I will end the scandal of hospital trolleys"?
Well, I think if you go back to...
Is it acceptable for us to understand? Is it acceptable for us to believe that you break promises?
If you go back to the to any of the previous 48 sheets as well, I recall the leader of Fianna Fáil.
I'm not asking about that. I'm asking about I will end the scandal of hospital trolleys.
I'm telling you about it if you let me.
No, you're bringing up Fianna Fáil. I'm talking about you.
Well, I'm entitled to bring up Fianna Fáil because they made a commitment when they were in government. Indeed, the current leader of Fianna Fáil, when he was Minister for Health, said he would end trolley waits a long time ago. I admit, I'm the first to admit that the health situation is not the way that we would like it to be, but we've made a very strong start here, and it's predicated on on four basic pillars. One is a healthier Ireland, dealing with obesity, alcohol, smoking, and so on. The second is putting in the foundations for universal health care. The third is in dealing with capacity building, 4,000 extra personnel in the last.
But if it was
month.
a case, no, you're not answering the question.
Finish?
And if it was
May
a
I finish,
case of
please?
money in the health service,
finish,
no, wait a
please?
second. If it was a case of money fixing the health service, it would have been fixed a long time ago.
May I finish, please? The third pillar is to build on the capacity building within the system. You can't have investment for doctors, nurses, consultants, and facilities in hospitals unless you've got an economy to deal with that. And the fourth is reform, ending the HSE, putting in hospital groups and community trusts, ICT development, and bringing efficiencies in the system. I don't want to see anybody having to be on a trolleys, and it's unfortunate that they are. But you cannot invest to this scale unless you have
you had
an
5 years
economy
to do
that functions.
Well, listen. You had 5 years to do it. You would end the scandal of hospital trolleys.
When this government was elected to office, our country was bankrupt. You were dealing with your radio programs. You got them.
I'm
every
dealing with
day.
the same things now as I was 5 years ago.
Well, you're not dealing with the same
I'm
things
dealing
now.
with hospital waiting lists. I'm dealing with
Well,
2
in the
years
la-
waiting for an
okay.
autism assessment. I'm dealing with old age pensioners. The paltry €3 that they got in the budget, it wouldn't buy them a chicken. I'm dealing with 0 hours contracts. I'm dealing with multinationals giving people 18-month contracts and then letting them go. I'm dealing with immigration. You claim that 250,000 people went away and they're coming back. Where do you get the information that people are coming back?
I'm not sure where you're coming from here. But
No,
you're
I'm
also
saying that we're dealing with the same things now as we were 5 years ago.
Well, you're not actually. You're dealing with a situation now where the deficit of the country is gone from 18 billion down to just over 4, where unemployment has fallen from 15.2 to 8.6.
Yeah, but that's massage. You're using JobBridge and you're using outreach programs.
Well, if you're telling me on Red FM that the creation of 135,000 jobs is massage, then I disagree with you, because these are men and women who are able to go to work every morning in their own country, in their own location. Go up to Drumshanbo and see what they're doing up there. Go up to Chanel in Loughrea and look at what they're doing. Look what's happening in this city here. We have multi-million injections in terms of employment and job creation, and that's why I'm here today. Because this government is investing in serious infrastructure for this city. And if you were telling me that things were the same as they were 5 years ago, I disagree with you.
Yeah, but a lot of those jobs are third level education. Not everybody has a third level education. There are 64 electoral districts in Cork that are labelled as disadvantaged or seriously disadvantaged. Yeah. 25% of the families in Cork are deemed as being single parent families.
Unemployment across this region.
There are areas of Cork, black spots, and seriously disadvantaged where you have something in the region of 25% unemployment.
But that's exactly the reason that we have to keep the recovery going.
No, but they want real jobs. There's no construction jobs. You're not hiring in the public sector anymore where people would normally get some work. It's all IT, it's high finance, and a lot of the labour is international labour coming into Cork.
I disagree with you on two fronts. The moratorium has been lifted on the public service. We've recruited 4,000 people into the health system in the last 12 months. We've reopened Templemore, 600 Gardaí coming out of that. We're going to employ 2,000.
But you got rid of 2,500 guards.
Fianna Fáil closed down Templemore and Gardaí retire, as naturally happens in every public service. This government have reopened Templemore, 600 coming through every time. We put 200 million on the table to increase their efficiency and in communication.
But you close rural Garda stations all over the country. People are living in fear in country areas.
Let me deal with manufacturing. I was up in Mallow the other day in EPS. This is a company that started 20 years ago that has now over 300 people employed, exporting waste and wastewater treatment systems internationally. It's an example of an Irish company, indigenous, that has gone global, and that's a magnificent tribute to those workers who are producing the quality and the integrity of the product that they send out
I don't
abroad.
dispute that they're isolated.
But you're saying that nobody's being employed anymore, that they're all third-level graduates. Technology, software, data analytics, these are brand new facilities.
Short-term contracts, many of those.
They're not short-term
They're not real jobs. They're not jobs that people
Apple
can rear a family with. You can't or even maybe get a mortgage.
Apple employ a further 1,000
18-month contracts.
Apple employ a further...
Low tax rate.
Well, if that's the attitude that you wish to take, Neil, then that's fine.
Well, what attitude do you want me to take?
I'm telling
Do you want me
you
to roll out a red carpet and say that everything's
I don't
cool?
want you to roll out any red carpet. I'm telling you here in
I mean,
Cork,
the information I'm giving you is accurate. You accept that?
and the information I'm giving you is accurate, that unemployment is down from 15.2 to 8.6, that our deficit will be eliminated by 2018. That's down from 18 billion to zero. That means that our country is moving in a much stronger position than it was. Our national debt's falling, employment is rising, and we have changed the whole structure of social protection, where the Inthro offices, including in this city here, work now with people on the live register to get them jobs, to retrain them. We've looked at the collapse of the construction sector, and that's where you're going
Nobody's
to
building houses. Public authorities aren't building houses. None have been built in Cork.
Government have changed the
Private
rule.
sector aren't building houses.
Levies have been reduced for contractors. Building regulations have been changed. 4 billion is on the table and directions given to every local authority in the country to get on and start building social housing. This is the last of the sectors to respond because it collapsed completely. Maybe you don't recognise that.
I do recognise it because I deal with it every day. I deal with people who are homeless. I deal with people
So do I, actually.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that a little bit. I deal with people who are living in their cars. They're living in travel lodges. I deal with the guy who's living down in the marina, actually, out of a box. These are the people that I deal with regularly. I deal with people who you wouldn't give a break to on their mortgage, but yet you allowed the banks to write down debt for developers. But nobody gave people who were scalped when they paid top dollar for their houses a break. You never instructed the banks to reduce their repayments and to give them a bit of leeway. Why didn't you do that for the common man if you did it for developers?
Well, as you know, after the collapse of the economy and the country with the previous Fianna Fáil administration, a lot of which was conducted, I suppose, in the Galway tent many years ago, the situation was that practically every mortgage holder in the country was in distress. These numbers have fallen seriously because the government introduced a whole suite of options for those who have mortgages and those who lend them, whether they be banks or other financial institutions.
No, but I asked you about debt write-off specifically.
Yes, and debt write-off is a feature of life now with insolvency there.
No, I'm talking about family.
Bankruptcy for families in situations like this being reduced to 1 year, 3 years and 1 year if an
But
option.
we don't want families to go bankrupt.
And
We want them to get a break on a property that's not worth what they're paying for it.
You don't want to know the truth here. Plenty options for those who have mortgages that are in distress to sit down with the lenders and negotiate through a code of conduct presented by the central bank for every bank to be courteous and work with the people to whom they have lent money.
But they're not.
But the numbers are dropping seriously in terms of those who are now in mortgage
But
distress.
the most vulnerable, who are the electorate, got ignored, and the
banks
banks screwed them, and the courts endorsed it.
Some banks, as you know, have written write-offs in particular circumstances. The first requirement, Neil, is for a person who has borrowed money and who's under pressure and in distress to negotiate and sit down with the lender. And the numbers in these cases have fallen seriously over the last 2 years.
Let me ask you a little bit about crime. The battle on crime seems to be fought now in the newspapers. You see the papers today, particularly talking about the issue regarding Irish independent journalists. You talk about kind of restocking or restabilising the Garda Síochána. I imagine that it's a little bit too late if the battle against the criminal gangs is being fought by the press.
It's not about restabilising the Garda Síochána. This is about equipping the Garda force to do the job that they are selected to do and that they're appointed to do, which is to protect citizens from criminal or paramilitary activity.
But it's not happening, is it, though? It may not be your responsibility, it may be the Garda Commissioner, but clearly we've reached a new low now with threats of intimidation against working journalists.
That's absolutely deplorable. You had out of the tragic and sad case of Veronica Guerra many years ago, came the CAB, the Criminal Assets Bureau, and special squads to deal with criminal activity.
But they're flaunting all of that and driving around in their big Maseratis and their flashy sports cars.
As the Garda Commissioner has requested assistance from the government, she gets it, both in terms of resources and in terms of capacity to do this job. And that's why the engine to drive the Gardaí for the future was closed down. We've reopened it. There's 600 a year coming out of there now, but you can't put probationary Gardaí up against hardened criminals. And that's why the special armed unit dealing with Dublin are a Gardaí of experience who've been used to this.
But what happens if there's a major slaughter at this funeral now? Would you not feel very responsible?
Well, for your information, as I understand it, this is an operation that the Garda Commissioner will direct. I understand that there's a 5-day preparation for the funeral involved. Remember, there were 2 people murdered on the streets here, one in broad daylight and one in the evening. This is a situation that you can't tolerate from criminal gangs. We had this before in Limerick, and they've dealt with it in other locations around the country as well. And that's why when I hear the Sinn Féin president calling for the abolition of the Special Criminal Court, it's hypocrisy.
Are people not entitled to be judged by jury?
And the judges have said in the past that you've had gross intimidation of witnesses. You had a situation where Detective Sergeant Jerry McCabe was murdered, was shot down doing his duty, and yet that charge had to be reduced from murder to manslaughter because of gross intimidation. That's what we're talking about here. And the security of our state is under threat when you have dissident paramilitaries, so-called Republicans, conducting their business without fear of law or order, of life or limb.
So why don't you
So
mop
we've got to
them
deal
all
with
up
this.
then, or call in people and knock heads together?
Well, there's a process of law to be gone through here and a process of justice. And that's why you need trained Gardaí, you need experienced Gardaí, they need to be properly resourced, and they're getting that. And I have full confidence in the Garda Commissioner and her force to deal with this, as they will.
Let me ask you about water charges, because Fianna Fáil will abolish them. They're absolutely toxic. Why haven't you decided once and for all, and perhaps win this election single-handedly by just abolishing this nasty tax?
I don't accept from you at all that water charges are toxic.
They are on the doorstep. Surely be to God you're getting it on the doorstep.
It's very necessary that people have a proper and decent water supply. Irish Water has the capacity to have national procurement capacity to bring about massive savings and efficiencies, which is.
But we know the history of it. But the allegation, of course, by the opposition, everybody else, is we're paying for it anyway in our taxes.
Well, if you tell me that a contribution of €1.15 or €3 a week is excessive,
but it's the sum of all the parts, though. You know, it could go to 400, 500. It could go even higher. It's the things to come.
Water prices are fixed until 2019. They're a very modest contribution of €1.50.
But couldn't you have abolished it? Couldn't you have found the money somewhere else and really just won this election hands down by just saying we're going to scrap it? It was a bad idea.
That's nonsense. They're a very modest contribution of €1.15 per week and €3 for a water supply that people can be proud of. Where in Loughrea, for instance, where boiled water notice issued the other day, you do not pay for water that you cannot drink. I had a situation in this country where 50% of the water being treated was leaking away into the ground that you have been paying for over the years. Now, Irish Water is a national entity. It's making massive improvements in the way things are done.
But it's a perceptual thing, Taoiseach.
I disagree with you fundamentally.
You could have found it somewhere else.
This is about providing a quality of life for our people across all sectors, and good quality water is not only important for people in their daily life,
I accept
but
that,
also
but they're
for
paying
business.
high enough tax as it is. They're paying universal social charge, they're paying property tax, they're paying PRSI, they're paying water charges, they have to pay for their own refuse collection. What in the name of God do we pay tax for at all? If every service we need needs to be paid independently.
The government didn't increase income tax, and we're going to abolish USC altogether. We've already reversed the cut in the minimum wage brought in by Fianna Fáil. We've raised the minimum wage twice. We set up the low.
But minimum wage isn't a good wage. Everybody goes on about minimum wage.
We've set up a low-paid commission to have a structured system for lower-paid workers to get increases, and the government will adhere to that. We've reduced the USC at the two lower levels, taken 400,000 out of any liability for universal social charge, and we'll abolish it entirely over the next 5 budgets, with particular reference to those from 70,000 down, the middle and lower income workers. Therefore, a family with 2 children and 37,000 would be better off by 2,000 a year.
Good, and that's a good idea, and I think everybody commends
and we're
that.
not going to tax work, Neil.
Yes, but on the other end of the scale, how are you going to ask SMEs to set up a business, or people to come into Ireland to set up a business and employ lots of people and those people would be, highly qualified and they'd need big wages? Nobody's going to come to Ireland if they're being told they're going to have to pay over 50% tax.
Well, that's the Sinn Féin line and the Fianna
No, it's
Fáil.
not. I mean, it's a realistic thing. In this country, you were saying the more you work and the harder you work, the more we will penalise you.
Yes, but let me explain to you. Fine Gael's policy here is to abolish the universal social charge.
But you're putting 5% on then to the upper end.
What I'm saying to you is that every worker will be better off under this program. That means that for the average worker, for the middle income earner, their tax will be reduced to 44%. For others on higher earners, they will pay more, and their income tax will be below 50%. So for middle income, from 70,000 down, it'll be 44% down from 52. If you tell me that that's not an improvement in their capacity to have a better life, then I disagree.
I asked you about trying to attract other types of business into the country.
And I've already made
Renew are talking about a 23% flat tax.
Well, that's a disaster.
You believe it's not doable?
It's not doable.
23%
it's
for all?
It's doable if you wish, but you're going to make things far worse. This is a concoction of somebody in the Renew campaign. It's not relevant. It's not an issue. Our position here is that every worker will be better off. Those who Those who earn more will pay more. The real focus is on those who are middle income earners and lower income earners. They get the vast benefit of this. Because it means, Neil, you do not increase your income tax on work. You don't tax work. And the more people you have working, the better the opportunity to invest into the economy
Yeah,
is.
but it's business people and SMEs and entrepreneurs that create
and they're thriving.
work.
And the pipeline of investment into the country is very strong. We want to make that better by not putting taxes on work, by rewarding work, and those who have a job will be able to earn more. Those who haven't a job will be able to get a job.
One of the big initiatives that you put in was the free GP for under sixes. Could I use the word chaos with regards to that, for instance?
No, you can't.
Well, why? Because it could be 2 or 3 weeks before a child gets seen by a doctor.
That's not true under the GP and free GP access service.
Yeah, but they can't get in.
There are over 250,000 children registered under 6, together with our older citizens over 70. Now, I note that Fianna Fáil want to review this. Ask Micheál Martin when you're talking to him, what does that mean? People are now getting used to having free access to their GP.
But they can't get to see a doctor.
But of course they can get to see a doctor. It's working very well, and people are now getting used to it.
They can't. They're telling me that they can't on the air.
We have it all over the country. The GPs have agreed to this. They're doing very well. 250,000.
The GPs are saying they're swamped. I don't know, are we living on two parallel planets?
No, we're not living on two parallel planets. And we're in Ireland. It's a small country and we know each other very well and we know what's happening. This is a very good initiative by the government for under 6s and for over 70s. Those at the beginning of their lives and those in their senior years. Those who need doctors most now have free access to GPs. It's a contracted situation. It's agreed and it's working very well.
You don't believe then that they can't get in to see their GPs? You think that they can just rock in and be seen?
GPs in some cases may be exceptionally busy. But the vast majority...
They're very busy because everyone under 6 gets to get in for free.
And everybody over 70.
Yeah. I'm on the clock here, Taoiseach.
Do you not think that's a good thing?
I know, I think it's a good thing in theory, but I'm trying to point to you that it hasn't worked in practice.
It's a good thing. It's only after being introduced, Neil. It's beginning to work very well. Of course there are teething problems with all these things.
What do you
know... We take the view, that it's very important that those under 6 and over 70s have free GP access.
Yeah. Taoiseach, I'm on the clock and it's very unfortunate that I've been very curtailed in my time with you this morning. I understand that you're under pressure and
I'll give you a longer interview again anytime
you have a big agenda to cover today, but I just want to touch on one or two other very quick points. One is you're in Cork, right? I think there's probably nationally a support of about 20%, give or take 1 or 2 for Sinn Féin. Cork has a Sinn Féin controlled council. Cork has a Sinn Féin Lord Mayor. Are you dismissing over 20 or 25% of the Cork electorate by telling them to ignore Sinn Féin?
What I'm saying to people is that you've had a stable government for the last...
I'm talking about here in Cork now.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Cork and Monaghan and Wexford and Dublin and everywhere else. This is our country. It's a national election. It's not just about Cork or any other individual county.
Yeah, but we have a controlled council.
Excuse me. That's a matter for the people when they made their decision here in Cork in the local elections.
Yeah, but what I can't understand is what's your problem? What's your problem with Sinn Féin? If they could garner 25% of the vote in Cork.
My problem with Sinn Féin and Fianna Fáil is this. One party wrecked the economy, the other would wreck it. And if the two of them want to work together, you will have chaos. And you will be interviewing people in RedFM in a few years' time. If that were to apply, we'd have a flight of investment and jobs out of this country like you've never seen before. You're talking about reducing income tax. Sinn Féin have a policy of having a 65% marginal tax rate on people. Do you think anybody will want to work in a situation like that?
No, but they seem to get the support of the electorate.
The people in Cork, as anywhere else...
Are you saying they're stupid?
The people in Cork, same as anywhere else, are fully entitled to vote for whoever they wish. The election takes place on the 26th of February. The decision they make, though, determines the future direction of the country.
Okay, if you forget about Sinn Féin, then would it not be?
I'm not forgetting about Sinn Féin.
No, but you are. You're telling people forget about them, dismiss them. No, you're looking at Fianna Fáil. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are the same type of party. You're only divided by a civil war.
Excuse me.
Isn't that the natural bed partner for government?
Excuse me, please. Excuse me, please. The people in Cork are as entitled to vote for their public representatives who they wish. That's their choice.
No, you're not. You're telling them vote Fine Gael Labour. You're asking us to vote for...
I'm presenting a proposal that will give a stable government to continue the recovery that we know is underway.
Well, why wouldn't you do it with Fianna Fáil then?
If you let me finish, Neil Prendeville, it is a people's choice. It's their decision on the 26th of February. And that decision determines the direction of our country for the next number of years. I am saying the government that they elected in 2011 provided stability, provided decision-making, and has brought our country to a different place in terms of the safety of our public finances and the creation of jobs. I want that to continue. It is, however, a people's decision on the 26th of February. That's our democracy. And everybody in Cork is entitled to vote for who they wish. I ask them to vote for the Fine Gael candidates and the Labour candidates to provide that stable government to continue this recovery.
If Labour implodes, who are you going to do business with?
I don't deal in speculation here at all.
Deal with the polls then.
I deal with
the polls would say that we'll have a hung dial. There'll be none of you will have enough to do it on your own.
I deal with the results of the election by the people. In the meantime,
would you enter coalition with Fianna Fáil?
In the meantime,
would you?
In the meantime,
would you?
In the meantime, Neil, I say
why
to
won't
people,
you answer?
My proposition. If you let me answer, I will. I mean, if this is the kind of interview you conduct every day, fine.
I don't have much of an opportunity to get to talk to the Taoiseach of the country. I have to use my time.
You're not giving you much chance to answer.
I am. I'm asking a straight question. Would you do a deal with Fianna Fáil?
No, I've ruled them out already. Many times. Now, you should know that because you're a national presenter.
Why would you rule them out?
I've made the point that my proposition for a stable government to continue this recovery, to create jobs, to invest in public services, is for a return of the Fine Gael Labour government. That's a matter for the people. I'm fully entitled in my capacity as leader of my party or as Taoiseach to put forward that proposition. The people are entitled to make their decision and their choice.
What about the whole issue on abortion? Would you say if you were re-elected that you would give the nod to a referendum?
No, I haven't said that.
Would you though?
No.
Is it an issue?
You don't seem to want to listen to anybody's answer here. What I've said about abortion is a very sensitive personal issue. There are a great number of women who have come forward with the trauma and the personal stress of their stories, with particular reference to fatal fetal abnormalities. Now, that's in our constitution, which prohibits abortion except in very specific circumstances. Those circumstances have been determined by the Protection of Life Bill introduced by the government when every other government funked it for the last 30 years.
But that's a history lesson.
Let me finish. Let me finish, please. This is a sensitive matter.
It is, but it's a straightforward question.
Let me please make my point. The 8th Amendment was put into the Constitution 33 years ago. It cannot be changed. It cannot be altered. It cannot be amended without the consent of the people in a referendum.
That's what I asked you. Would you have a referendum to decide once and for all, yes or no, should there be abortion or should Irish women continue to take the vote?
It's much too glib for you to say, would you have a referendum? You cannot alter or change or amend a written constitution without the consensus of the people. And what I'm trying to say to you is that, as in the case of the Protection of Life Bill, which was dealt and chaired by Deputy Buttimer here, you got an expert group, you got an all-party Oireachtas committee, you looked at what needed to be done. If you can get consensus from the people, and you need consensus...
What is consensus? Is that not a referendum?
If you let me finish, Neil. If you can get consensus, you can then decide what it is that you want to do in a referendum and how you might reflect the values of society in that constitution. It's much too glib to say, have a referendum. What is your referendum on? What do you want to change? What do you insert into the constitution?
Okay. I accept that. I accept that there needs to be a lot of talking.
Yes, well, that's the process.
I wish I had an opportunity to talk some more, but I don't. You're in Cork. Is this really just a little bit of electioneering? You're down to turn a few sods, particularly on the convention centre. You know the contract hasn't even been signed on that yet. You'd think that maybe it's a little premature.
Excuse me. I'm not down here just to turn a few sods. I'm coming to Cork every month for the last 10 years.
Well, you are today just down to turn a few sods.
And the Beamish and Crawford site is going to be the location for the new convention centre. 6,000-seater, 20 million investment, 12 from the government, 8 from Cork City Council. BAM have taken over the site. It's a difficult site. You have a lot of earthworks, a lot of archaeological excavation there. But I'd say 2 years.
But some people are being cynical about it, saying
well, I'm not cynical about it.
It's opportunism.
I deal with cynicism every day of the week. I now deal with reality. This convention centre in Cork will bring enjoyment and economic benefit to this city for the next 25 years. It's going to be a glorious opportunity for Cork to expand, no more than the stimulus package we put forward to assist with the development of Páirc Uí Chaoimh, no more than the Dunkettle interchange, the major road.
What about a road to Limerick? That's for another day, I suppose.
Yes, that's for another day because that's a major development. But what about the road from Ballyvourney through Macroom? That's been on the list for a long time.
All right, Taoiseach, I've been put under fierce pressure here by your people. I wish it wasn't the case.
You're not being put under pressure by the people at all.
I am actually. They're all standing behind me, waving their hands and telling me to stop.
I'm just telling you that there's massive infrastructure investment going into this city by this government, never done before. Hall Boland, Imark, Beaufort, All of these are investments that are going to make this city great in the next 5, 10 years. We should be very proud of that, and I am very proud of it. And that's why I'm very happy to come down here today and turn the sod with BAM on the convention centre. It'll be a glorious opportunity for Cork to have a really world-class, state-of-the-art convention centre, which will bring enjoyment and economic benefit to the city for many
Okay,
years to
let's
come.
leave it on that positive note, Taoiseach. Welcome to Cork, and thanks for
Thank
talking
you
to
very
me.
much, Neil.